Hi, I'm Yvonne from Pree Designs. Thanks for stopping by my YouTube channel, if that's how you found me. I'm today just going to show you how I put together a card which I've called a pop-up panel card. I did see it and I worked out how it went together. So I don't know its original designer or its original name, but I've simply called it a pop-up panel card. This is using the Stars at Night suite of products, which are the Designer Series paper, the stamp set, and the matching dies. And this is the card that I've made using those products. Great little star, lots of different dies in the stamp set, or in the die set, sorry, not the stamp set. And then this is another version, same layout. This one was using the Merriest Trees bundle. And when you open it up, this is a little bit more card. I couldn't stop decorating. I've got all the little parcels down here. I did learn that if I had put the DSP on first, I wouldn't have had to cut all the little pieces out afterwards. So just a tip. But I'm actually going to make one with totally different Designer Series paper this time. Now I'm just putting the card together in the video. If you would like all the measurements, etc., I do sell my PDF instructions in centimeters for 10 Australian dollars. So if you're interested in that, it does have photographs to guide you through, but I've also thought that I would make videos to go with some of the cards that I make as well. So even those that have purchased the instructions can watch the video along with the instructions. All right, so this time I'm using, I should show you the paper. I'm using the Traditions of Saint Nick Designer Series paper. Now this is a brand new one. It's not in any of our Stampin' Up catalogues. It's available at the online store. Beautiful paper. I haven't made up my normal template sheet yet because I've only just taken delivery of this. And then that is the reverse side. Beautiful damask finish to the papers. It reminds me of wallpaper that was in my home. This was in our formal lounge dining, something like this, in our house when I grew up in the 70s. Okay, so that's the paper that I'm going to use. So I've just got an A5 card base and I've just cut my paper. I've chosen which of the Designer Series paper I wanted to use. My glue's run out, so bear with me for a moment while I grab a new one. Okay, new glue. I like to use glue most of the time when I'm crafting or card making because it allows you to have a few moments to move the paper if you've put it on wonky or skewed. And I'm just, first off, putting my Designer Series paper down. So this is what I learned from after I made that second card, the Merriest Trees card, that if I'd put my Designer Series paper down first, I wouldn't have had to measure and mark and pencil mark the pieces that I wanted to go in behind it. So this is a beautiful design. Now my mechanism, I've already pre-scored and marked all of this, and I'm just burnishing all my fold lines. And then I need to put this into place. So I'm just going to do the bottom one first, lining my edge up with the top of my card, and then I'm just tucking that in underneath so that it adheres inside my card. Okay, so let that set for a few moments. Then I need to fold that down. This is just skewed, so I'm just playing with it. As I said, that is the beauty of glue rather than tape, because you have got a few moments to play and manipulate it. Now in doing that, I have moved it. So let's just put it back into place. And I can see it's not quite lined up. So while I've got it in this position, I'm just going to re-burnish so that it sits nice and flush to my score line there, which is the center of my card. A little bit more glue, not too much because you don't want the glue to smush out, and then close the front onto that panel. All right, I'm going to put that aside because I want that to set, for the glue to set. Now I'm going to bring in my card front. I've picked up a piece of Mossy Meadow simply because that's the color, one of the colors in the cardstock. in the cardstock, in the designer series paper. Then I put a piece of tear and tape. I have used my grid paper so that I got that nice and straight, just along the side, taking off the tape. And I want to use my gilded foiling. This is really cool stuff. The gilded foiling, all those little pieces, then just adhere to my tear and tape. Brushing it off with a bit of sponge. Now again, this is a retired Stampin' Up sponge, but it just brushes off the excess back into my pot so I'm not wasting any. Now this gilded foiling comes in a jar. You get loads of it. When you open the jar, have a container ready because it does tend to pop out and expand. It's like magic. Okay, so that is my little bit of gold. I've cut a piece of 4cm designer series paper, and I'm just going to adhere that onto my Mossy Meadow. And I have embossed the Mossy Meadow with the Christmas Tidings embossing folder, which is a beautiful little embossing folder, and it's got lots of greetings on it. It doesn't matter whether you have it in portrait orientation or landscape orientation. It's got the words both ways, so it works both ways. All right, so that's it. A little piece of red ribbon. Now this is the ribbon that's in our annual catalogue, and it comes in a combo pack with the burlap ribbon. I think it's called the burlap ribbon. I'll grab it so I can show you. It's not listed on the actual packaging, so I'd have to get the catalogue out, but I will put that in the video afterwards. So that's the other ribbon that comes in that little pack, and that's the red. I always put adhesive on the back of my card front when I'm putting ribbon on, so that then I can stick it down without impeding the front of my card. And I've got that wonky, so now I can pull that off. I can readjust it without damaging the front of my card. Okay, so that is that piece. Now I'm going to attach that. I'm just going to flat glue it onto the front of my card. This paper is absolutely beautiful. It doesn't have a matching stamp set, but to me that doesn't matter because you can fussy cut some of the images and then just have some of your designer series paper onto your card. Now I can open my card and my little pop-up mechanism is sitting in there. I do need to rub out my pencil mark because that was so that I could line it up with the center of the card. And now I'm going to make the panel for what I want to put on here. Okay, so what I've now done is I've made myself a little panel, and I've made the panel the size that suited my piece of designer series paper. So St. Nick was sitting in there, and I've just cut it, the panel 1/2 centimetre bigger than my designer series paper. You can see here I've just snipped the bottom of that so that I could cut St. Nick out nice and easily, because then I'm going to flat glue my designer series paper in place. So I just want to get some nice glue on all the main edges because I want this to sit flat. A little bit through here, right down the very, very bottom. But if I just put that straight onto my card, any excess glue will smoosh out, as I like to say. So what I want to do, especially down that bottom section, is pick it up, drop it on my silicone mat, dab it to take any excess off. So then I've only got, oops, now it's stuck to my finger. I've only got a very small amount of glue, but enough glue to hold my designer series paper in place. Now, because I've used glue, I've got time to slide it around, make sure it's in the position that I want it to be in, and close that gap right down the bottom. So nobody will know that I have cut that out by hand because I've closed the little gap up here. I'm just going to bring in my trimmer and just trim off that little edge there because it's a little bit bigger on that side than on the other side. But if you're worried about this, you could always put your designer series paper on first and then trim it down so you've got a nice even mat all the way around. So I'm just going to trim off a tiny little bit across the side edge. That's enough for me. And then I'm going to put that piece into place in my card. Now I want it to be nice and snug up against my panel nice and snug up. There's a little stray there. That's a little bit of the gilded foiling. Nice and snug up there. Some glue on my panel where this panel needs to stick. Bring my card closed, and that will adhere my panel to the mechanism. Okay, oops, not quite dry yet. I'm going to leave it for a couple more seconds. While that's drying off, then I'm going to put some dimensionals on St. Nick. So St. Nick sits forward on the card. Take off some dimensionals. I use a paper piercing tool, which is on the end of my Take Your Pick tool. Great tool, has lots of little extras that you can attach to it. I've actually just ordered my second one so that I can have my attachments on there without swapping the ends all the time. Okay, take that off now. Open my card up. That's it. And my panel is nicely adhered, slightly crooked. So I'll just manipulate and fix that up. Then I'm going to put my St. Nick back into place where I've cut him out. So he just sits, it's like a little bit like paper toweling. I never got into that because it's too much fussy cutting for me, but I can handle a little bit of fussy cutting, but that just adds a nice little bit of interest there, just bringing the St. Nick forward so he's in the foreground and the trees and the snow are in the background. Then I've taken a piece of basic white and cut it using our rectangled deckled dies, just deciding which way. Now I want somewhere so that people can write, or I can write on this, to send it off. But I might put a little bit of blend a little bit of colour so that it doesn't get lost in here. So I'll come back in a moment. So I'm back with a blending brush, a mat to work on. I use a laminated sheet so that I can easily add just that little bit of colour, pick up some colour. I always start off the page and I just want to add a little bit of colour and interest to the edge of this piece. And then that'll help make this piece stand out against the designer series paper. So I'm just trying to incorporate the colours. This is Mossy Meadow. Just incorporating the colours that are in the designer series paper. And you can see now that is much better now that it's got that little bit of blending and colour on it. So I'll just stick that in. Stick it into place. And then I've got somewhere nice and easy to write on. I think it needs a little something down here, so I will grab some embellishments. Okay, so I've been away and I have stamped a little holly leaf and some little holly berries using our Christmas Classics stamp set and also our dies which match. And then I've also use the Very Best Occasion stamp set to use this with a little more sparkle and a little less stress. Let's make this Christmas the very best. And I've stamped that. And then I've actually die cut that with the stitched rectangles, not stitched, the deckled rectangles. I've die cut it the first time over that side, and then I've put the die into place on that side of the rectangle to cut it into a square because I didn't want it super long. So the stitched, I said it again, the deckled rectangles can also be used as squares. You just need to die cut them a second time. So just to add a little bit of interest to the inside and the bottom section of the card, I'm just popping my holly, bring my card back in, popping my holly down here just to finish it off, and I'm popping the dimensional onto the card because it's easier to do it this way. Pick up my holly or my berries. It's easier to do it that way than it is to put the dimensional onto, I think it would look good there. Oh, maybe, oh, I can't decide. Yeah, that'll look good there. And then this one, I've just got to pop over the top. Okay, so that's the inside of the card, just adding a little bit of detail. Close it up. And then on the front, I'm going to put my greeting, But I've still got a little bit of ink on my blending brush. So I'm just manually, I used to do this with sponges all the time, but we don't currently have sponges. But I'm just taking off the starkness of the edge of that tag with the ink that's left on the blending brush from doing the inside. Then I'll just pop a couple of dimensionals. Oops, that one ran away. A couple of dimensionals. Trying to hurry now. So, and there is my little tag. The final thing I'm going to do is colour in my little bit of holly and on the front and use a Wink of Stella brush. This is a great little brush. It's going to put a little bit of sparkle, which as the greeting talks about sparkle, I think it needs a tiny little bit of sparkle. So you can see I've only picked up one little bit of colour and maybe 2 bits of colour and just dab the colour in the circles, clean that off, and then grab a little bit of the Mossy Meadow to finish the leaf detail off. And as I mentioned, that'll have a little bit of sparkle on it. I don't want a really strong colour. And I simply need to do my envelope. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. As I said, don't know the original designer of this card, but I saw it, thought it was great, and decided I could make it in lots of different ways. So far I've made Christmas cards only, but there's lots of different things that you could do. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and happy crafting.